Welcome back to the new of this family. Today's video is more than just a story. It's a reflection of the struggles, resilience, and strength of our community. Every view, every like, and every share helps amplify the voices that history has tried to silence. Together, we're not just watching, we're standing up against racism and injustice. Aha! Thank you for being here and for being part of this movement. Let's dive in. Asterisk, Talia Jefferson sat at her desk, her fingers grazing the frayed edges of her notebook as sunlight streamed through the tall windows of room 1B. The familiar scent of sharpened pencils and hand sanitizer mingled in the air. A routine comfort against the restless hum of energy from outside. A cluster of students chatted near the door, coaxed back into the room by the blur of the recess bell moments before. Today was Tuesday, just after recess, and the classroom felt suspended between freedom and obligation. Miss Lawson tapped her clipboard against the edge of the teacher's desk. "All right, everyone," she called, voice crisp and practiced. "Time for our What My Parent Does presentations." Chairs scraped as the last of the students settled, and an expectant hush fell over the room. One by one, classmates rose to share. Jacob's father fought fires. Nadia's mom baked pastries in a sunny bakery across town. Marcus's brother served in the army, although Miss Lawson insisted that siblings didn't count. Everyone still offered polite applause. Stories flowed smoothly, each one punctuated by encouraging nods and murmurs of admiration. When Miss Lawson looked toward Talia's row, a silence deeper than any before settled over her. Talia felt every eye shift her way. She inhaled, steadying her breath, and stood, holding a small card with her name written in neat purple letters. Her heart thudded, but her voice remained clear. "My mom works at NASA." The first comment came from the back. "NASA?" Stephen asked, eyebrows arching. A ripple of laughter followed. Not the explosive kind, but a slow tide of amusement that grew with each passing second. "She's making that up," whispered Mark to Collins, audible enough that half the class turned. Miss Lawson's lips twitched into a thin line, her eyebrows lifting as if she, too, doubted. Talia waited, calm as the quiet center of a storm. She didn't flinch. "Yes," she repeated. "She's a systems engineer at NASA." The words felt unprecedented, heavy with possibility. For a moment, no one moved. Then the laughter rose again, louder this time. Seats shifted as students exchanged amused glances. Someone finally applauded. But it carried an edge of mockery that stung sharper than outright derision. Miss Lawson cleared her throat. "Thank you, Talia," she said, voice brisk. "Next, Owen." She didn't offer the supportive nod she did for other presenters. Without another glance at Talia, she continued down her clipboard. Talia sat, her cheeks burned. She stared at the desk's surface, running her fingertip along a carved groove. She could still hear the laughter echoing in her mind. A few students even nudged each other, heads tilted conspiratorially. Theo leaned in and murmured, She probably cleans bathrooms at NASA. His words hovered, an insult disguised as curiosity. Talia closed her eyes briefly, centering herself. She didn't respond. She knew her mother's title, and her work deserved belief. The bell rang then, slicing through the tension like a promise. Backpacks erupted open, chairs scraped back, and students spilled into the hallway. Talia remained, seated, her eyes on the closed door, absorbing the quiet absence of laughter now that everyone had fled. When she finally stood, she moved with purpose. She gathered her things, backpack slung over one shoulder, though her stomach twisted at the memory of mock applause. She repeated her mother's words in her mind. Some truths are too big for small minds. You just let them catch up, she vowed. She would no matter how long it took. Outside the classroom, the corridor echoed with slamming lockers and rushing footsteps. Posters lined the walls, bright illustrations promoting careers in medicine, law, and teaching. None mentioned aerospace, engineering. Yet Talia saw beyond those flimsy pages.
Got it.
She knew her mother's work was changing the world. Her mother's achievements belonged in this hall, even if the others couldn't see it yet. At lunch, Talia joined the window table. Friends quieted as she explained her mom's talk. She really works at NASA, Talia insisted. Alex tapped his tablet. Show us proof. She retrieved a photo, her mother's workspace, glowing monitors, schematic blueprints pinned to walls, a badge reading NASA Johnson Space Center. Murmurs of astonishment rippled through the group. Mama. Their eyes widening. Through afternoon lessons, Talia's thoughts soared. Mama. She sketched constellations in the margins, imagined designing spacecraft guided by her mother's expertise. Mama. Geometry. Problems faded as she envisioned lunar modules and Mars rovers. The earlier laughter felt distant, replaced by a steady resolve. She would master every equation, learn every system. Her mother's pioneering work would become Talia's heritage. That evening, as she walked home, the sun dipped low, painting the sky in strands of orange and purple. She pictured her mother on the porch light haloing her NASA badge. Each step felt lighter, buoyed by the certainty that truth, like starlight, could not be hidden. And as she turned the corner toward her house, Talia knew this was only the first step on her own journey to the stars. Inside her mind, she remembered her mother's words. Believing in yourself is the first step. That affirmation warmed her heart, reminding her that courage could outshine doubt. She pressed her hand to her chest, feeling the beat of confidence. Tomorrow, she would walk in stronger. Monday morning arrived with the promise of change. Talia Jefferson stepped into room 1 to be clutching her backpack straps until her knuckles whitened. The hush that greeted her felt different, less a den of doubt, more a foyer of possibility. Desks remained in their usual rows, but when she met her classmates' eyes, she saw curiosity where there had once been scoffs. Miss Lawson stood at the front, a clipboard in hand, surveying the room with a careful expression. The plastic tray of sugar cookies sat untouched on her desk, a silent peace offering. "Good morning," she said, voice steady. "I'd like to start with a quick debrief on Friday's Parent Day." Head swiveled toward the horseshoe of chairs along the back wall, where Talia had sat beside her mother. The memory fluttered up a calm, crisp presence in black blazer and NASA badge, schematic in hand, commanding respect without raising her. Voice Talia's pulse quickened at the recollection, her mother's words echoing. "Brilliance doesn't always arrive in the package you expect." Miss Lawson cleared her throat. "I asked you all to jot down one takeaway from that presentation. Let's share them now." A tentative hand rose. It was Kennedy. She spoke quietly, that you shouldn't laugh before you understand something. When she looked at Talia, her eyes held genuine respect. A ripple of murmurs followed. Samira added, that NASA isn't just about rockets, it's about solving problems for the future. Theo, who had once whispered that Talia's mom cleaned bathrooms, swallowed audibly before saying that if someone tells you a huge truth, you shouldn't just doubt them. The room stayed silent long enough for those words to settle. Miss Lawson offered a small smile. "Thank you. I'm proud of how you've reflected." Talia exhaled, tension draining from her shoulders. For the first time since Tuesday, she didn't dread the date felt possible that her classmates had shifted. If only slightly. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of lessons. At recess, Talia joined Kennedy and Samira at the bench by the playground fence. The sun was warm on her back, a subtle but welcome reminder that some changes unfold slowly, like dawn. "Hey," Kennedy said, glancing down at Talia's NASA badge clipped to her backpack. "I looked up systems engineering last night." Talia's breath caught. "Really?" Samira nodded, holding out her tablet. "There's a program at that space center where kids can submit project ideas. I'm thinking of entering." Talia smiled. "That's awesome." Kennedy grinned. "Thanks. Would you help me figure out how to present an idea? I know you've been interested ever since your mom came." Talia's chest swelled. When the bell rang, they walked back in together, three friends moving as a small, determined fleet. During math, Talia tackled fractions she'd once feared, her confidence buoyed by the morning's goodwill. In science, she volunteered to lead the group demonstration on air pressure. The teacher let her guide her peers through the experiment. And nobody giggled when she explained the NASA connection she'd drawn. Parallels between the vacuum of space and the pressure chambers described in their textbook. She saw nods of understanding instead of smirks of disbelief. By lunchtime, news of the science demo had spread. Owen approached her at the cafeteria table. "That was cool," he said, nodding toward her sketchbook full of rocket diagrams. "Do you mind if I watch while you work on your project this afternoon?" "Sure," Talia replied, surprised and pleased. In art class, she sank into drawing orbit patterns in vivid, colored pencils, her earlier fears replaced by a quiet excitement. When Dean passed her table, he gave a curt nod, eyes averted. Tay wasn't. A smile, but it was better than his former sneer. After school, Talia lingered, gathering her things. Miss Lawson called her over. Talia's heart fluttered. Had she done something wrong? I wanted to apologize again, Miss Lawson said, voice sincere. I moved too quickly last week. I should have encouraged more questions. You helped all of us learn something important. Talia blinked. Thank you. Miss Lawson offered a genuine smile. And if you ever want to bring more about your mom's work diagrams, videos side welcome it. Talia nodded, warmth flooding her chest. I'd like that. Walked home on a slow, deliberate pace, savoring each step. Sunshine dappled through oak leaves, the world feeling both the same and profoundly different. She remembered her mother's calm assurance. You give people armor when you stand beside them. Oh? The front porch light glowed as she approached. Inside, the savory aroma of garlic and onions greeted her. She found her mother stirring a deep red pot of stew. How was school? Renee asked, lowering the flame. Talia dropped into a chair. It was good today. Oh, God. She hesitated. Then added, I think some of them are starting to believe me. Renee smiled, scooping 2 bowls. I'm proud of you for staying true, even when it was hard. They sat at the kitchen table together, bowls steaming between them. Talia described the bench talk with Kennedy and Samira, her lead in science. Owen's request to join her project time. Renee listened, nodding. You see how small actions can shift minds, she said. Every time you share your truth calmly, you chip away at doubt. Talia traced a spiral in the condensation pooling on her glass. It feels good to be seen, she admitted. There was a quiet moment, filled only by the distant hum of the refrigerator and the faint tick of the wall clock. Renee reached across and squeezed her daughter's hand. Remember, brilliance carries its own force. Let it shine. Later that night, Talia lay in bed, eyes tracing constellations in the glow-in-the-dark stars on her ceiling. She envisioned lunar orbits and Martian landscapes, her mother's steady words guiding her, one equation at a time, one mind at a time. Tomorrow would bring fresh challenges, fractions in math, paragraphs to write in English, projects to plan. But Talia felt ready. The ripples from her mother's visit had become waves of possibility, carrying her forward, and in the quiet dark, she whispered into the soft hush of her room, one day I'll build something no one expects, just like Mom taught me. The Tuesday after Parent Day, Talia arrived at school with a quiet buzz of excitement humming through her veins. As she stepped into the courtyard, a group of students clustered around a poster advertising the upcoming science fair. Kennedy waved. Her over. We're meeting after school to brainstorm ideas, she said, eyes bright. You in? Talia smiled. Absolutely. Felt strange and thrilling to be invited. Only weeks ago, she would have hesitated at the edge of their circle. Today, she walked right in. Classes passed in a blur of equations and essays, but Talia's mind drifted ahead to the fair. At lunch, she sat at the window table with Kennedy and Samira, sketching out rough concepts in her notebook. She drew a small satellite with solar petals, the same design she'd first unveiled to her. Mother. Underneath, she scribbled notes on panel rotation, energy yield, and lightweight materials. "Whoa," Samira breathed. "This is amazing." "Yeah," Kennedy agreed. "It's not just a model. It's a real proposal." Talia glanced around, half expecting someone to challenge her. But Kennedy and Samira gazed at her drawings with the same reverence she felt when her mom described flight systems. For the first time, Talia believed her own ideas were valid. After school, they gathered in the library. Books on engineering and space technology lined the shelves. Talia pulled out her mother's old aerospace magazines, dusty but still filled with glossy images of rockets and control panels. She photocopied diagrams, highlighted key sections, and compiled them into a binder labeled Project Nova. Solar-petal satellite. Theo appeared at the table, hesitantly smiling. "Mind if I join?" he asked. His earlier comment about bathroom cleaning had been replaced by genuine curiosity. "Of course," Talia said, scooting over. "We could use your math skills." He grinned and dove in, calculating surface area and energy conversion rates. Kennedy and Samira filled in environmental contexts, Mars's thin atmosphere, lunar temperature fluctuations, while Talia organized their notes and drafted a presentation outline. When the bell rang, each of them lingered to pack supplies: poster, board, markers, rulers, and Talia's treasured schematic binder. On the walk home, they talked non-stop about material sourcing, presentation flow, and possible questions from judges. Talia felt a surge of pride. Her mother's words, "You give people armor when you stand beside them," replayed in her mind. This project was her own armor, forged through collaboration and curiosity. That evening, Talia set up her parents' dining table as a makeshift lab. Under the warm glow of the chandelier, she arranged pages from NASA bulletins, a stack of graph, paper, and her laptop. The kitchen smelled of tomato sauce simmering downstairs, a reminder that home carried both comfort and inspiration. Renee joined her, drying hands on a dish towel. "How's the project coming?" Talia flipped her binder open. "We're testing energy outputs based on panel angle. But I want to build a small prototype." Renee studied the drawings. "That's ambitious and brilliant." She paused. "Would it help if I brought home some surplus materials from the lab?" Talia's heart leaped. "Would you?" Renee nodded. "Tomorrow." She smiled, then added, "Just remember to document everything. Real engineers keep lab notebooks." Over the next few days, Talia balanced schoolwork with project work. In math class, she applied exponential functions to calculate sunlight intensity on solar cells. Her teacher noticed. "Good work, Talia," she said, marking her answers with a bright check. During science lab, Talia consulted her binder as she measured voltage and current on small solar panels her mother had delivered. Theo and Kennedy worked alongside her, amazed that their teammate was guiding them through real engineering calculations. By Friday, they had assembled a basic prototype, a small rectangular frame with hinged solar strips that opened like petals. When placed under a lamp, it generated enough current to light an LED bulb. The group cheered, high-fiving one another. Talia's cheeks hurt from smiling too much. her confidence blossoming like the sunflower petals she had modeled at home that night. Talia presented the prototype to her parents. Renee examined the device closely, then nodded. "This is fantastic work, Talia. You've applied systems engineering principles brilliantly." Her father, David, ruffled her hair. "Serious talent, kiddo." He beamed with pride. Talia felt a warmth unlike anything she'd known before. It wasn't just pride or relief, it was validation. Her ideas, nurtured by belief, had grown into tangible results. The following Monday, she strode into room 1 to be with her prototype safely tucked in a box. Miss Lawson raised an intrigued eyebrow as Talia set it on her desk. During the morning announcement, Miss Lawson beckoned her forward. Talia stood before the class, heart pounding but steady. "Everyone," Miss Lawson began, "Talia and her team have a prototype for the science fair. Would you like to see how it works?" Murmurs of assent rose. Talia connected the petals to the LED bulb. Under the overhead lights, the panels angled, collecting the fluorescent glow, generating just enough power to make the bulb flicker on. A spontaneous round of applause erupted respectful. Enthusiastic. For the first time, Talia watched her classmates without fear. Their eyes shone with admiration, not doubt. And as she demonstrated how adjusting the angle changed the output, she felt a surge of certainty. She belonged here, among thinkers and dreamers. The bell rang, but nobody rushed. Students clustered around her desk, peppering her with questions about circuits, materials, and future improvements. Talia answered each one, drawing diagrams on scrap paper, sharing her binder, guiding them through the experiment. When the classroom finally emptied, Miss Lawson approached. She placed a hand on Talia's shoulder. "That was extraordinary. You turned skepticism into curiosity into understanding." Talia nodded, her eyes shining. "Thank you for believing I could do it." Miss Lawson's smile was warm. "I'm sorry I doubted. I won't make that mistake again." Talia gathered her prototype, binder, and eager peers, her chest swelling with pride. As she walked home that afternoon, the sun low in the sky, she realized her journey was far from over. But she also knew she would never again shrink from a challenge. She carried new armor, the unshakable knowledge that brilliance, like her mother's, like her own, could outshine any doubt. And with each step toward home, she imagined futures. Unfolding satellites unfurling their solar petals in silent orbits. Explorers guided by systems she would one day design. And a classroom of children who would learn to believe before they laughed. Monday dawned crisp and bright, carrying with it the electric hum of 1 week before the science fair. Talia Jefferson woke early, heart thrumming in her chest. She dressed quickly, fingers fumbling over the fabric of her favorite hoodie, the one speckled with tiny paint stains from art class. Today, after school, her team would meet in the library to finalize their presentation materials, posters, handouts, and a polished slide deck. In homeroom, whispers of excitement rippled through the room as students swapped fair preparation stories. Nadia sharpened her colored pencils for her biology poster. Marcus practiced his voice projection for a robotics demonstration, but Kennedy, Samira, Theo, and Talia formed a tight cluster near the back, arms full of binder pages and printer paper. Miss Lawson paused her attendance roll and offered them an encouraging nod. "Good luck this week," she said. "I can't wait to see your innovations." Talia swallowed back a surge of nerves. "Thank you, Miss Lawson," she replied, voice steady. Even Miss Lawson's genuine interest felt like another brick in the foundation of respect forming beneath Talia's feet. The bell rang. Books clattered shut, and students streamed into the halls. Talia and her teammates convened in the library's quiet corner, where a long table groaned under their paraphernalia, a trifold poster board, stacks of index cards, and a laptop tethered to the power outlet. "Okay," Talia began, tapping the laptop. "First slide. Problem statement. We need to show why current solar panel arrays on satellites have limitations." She clicked through a diagram illustrating uneven energy absorption when panels remain flat. "Then our solution, petals," Theo chimed in. "We should include a graph comparing energy output at different angles." He spread out graph paper, the axes ready for their plotted data. Samira highlighted keywords on the handouts: efficiency, adaptive array, mission, longevity. Kennedy sketched a stylized sunflower beside the title, lending the board a touch of warmth. For 2 hours, they worked without pause. Each suggestion was met with eager nods. Every correction folded into their plan. When they finally stepped away, the presentation looked crisp. A coherent narrative, professional visuals, and room for live demonstration of the prototype. As they packed up, Talia's confidence soared. Walking home, she rehearsed her talking points under her breath, imagining judges leaning forward in interest. That evening, Talia spread her binder on the kitchen table. Talia Jefferson measured out lengths of lightweight aluminum strips material she'd secured through her NASA contact sand, handed them to Talia. "These will form sturdier petal hinges," Renee explained, snapping the metal pieces together. Talia followed her mother's careful instructions, drilling tiny holes and fastening miniature bolts. The metal pieces clicked into place, and under their fingers, a more refined prototype emerged, sleek, hinged panels that fanned out smoothly. The upgraded model promised higher structural integrity and improved alignment precision. "I didn't know you could do that at home," Talia admitted, marveling at the professional grade components. Renee smiled. "Engineers improvise wherever they are." She set down her tools. "You're ready for the fair." But that night, in the quiet hush of her room, doubt crept in. What if judges dismissed their project as too ambitious? What if someone questioned Talia's leadership? What if a panel broke during demonstration? She stared at her binder's cover. Project Nova, solar-petal satellite. Beneath the bold letters, she imagined the faces of her classmates and judges watching her closely. The excitement she'd felt earlier twisted into cold uncertainty. The next morning, Talia forced a smile as she walked into school. Kennedy and Samira greeted her with thumbs up, Tio gave an encouraging nod. But the tight knot of anxiety already tugged at her stomach. During lunch, Marcus approached. Talia, he said quietly. I read about adaptive solar eraser. Idea is solid. He pressed a sheet of notebook paper into her hand. Sketches of alternative hinge mechanisms he'd found online. Thought you might like to see these. Talia's chest warmed. Thanks, Marcus. His simple gesture reminded her she wasn't alone in this. After the final bell, they carried their belongings and the prototype to the cafeteria, repurposed this week as the fair's venue. Rows of folding tables formed aisles between colorful trifolds and buzzing gadgets. Fluorescent gym lights glared down, echoing the sterile brightness of a laboratory. They found their assigned spot between the eco-friendly water purification project and a display on magnetic levitation trains. The room hummed with 100 different conversations, students explaining thermodynamics, judges jotting notes, parents hovering proudly. Talia's throat was dry as she set down the tablecloth, aligned the poster board, and positioned the upgraded prototype on a small pedestal. Theo plugged the LED into the panel's connector. Kennedy laid out handouts. Samira tested the laptop slideshow. Ready? Akeo asked softly. Talia exhaled, straightened her back, and nodded. Let's do it. The first visitors were curious onlookers, fellow students intrigued by the sunflower motif. Talia greeted them, her voice steady as she outlined the problem statement. With each explanation, her confidence returned, fueled by their engaged eyes and thoughtful questions. How does temperature variance affect panel flexibility? Could this design work on a CubeSat? By mid-afternoon, local science fair judges began their rounds. A tall engineer in a navy blazer stepped forward, badge clipped to her lapel. Talia recognized the style, maybe someone from the school district's STEM advisory committee. Hello, she said. I'm Talia Jefferson, and this is Project Nova. The judge extended her hand. Impressive work. Tell me about your data. Talia clicked to the graph slide, describing energy output curves and mechanical stress tests. The judge nodded, scribbling on her clipboard. She touched the pedal hinge gently. How did you source these materials? Through a partnership with my mother's lab, Talia replied. She's an aerospace systems engineer at NASA, and she helped me procure lightweight aluminum. The judge raised an eyebrow in genuine interest. That's quite a collaboration. How did you manage your time between schoolwork and this project? Talia spoke of weekly library sessions, parent support at home, and collaborative teamwork. The judge listened, eyes focused. When Talia demonstrated the prototype under the gym's fluorescent lights, the LED bulb shone steadily, illuminating her pride. Excellent presentation, the judge said. We'll be in touch. She moved on to the next display as the afternoon sun slanted through high windows. More judges arrived, some smiling, some stern, each probing different facets of the project: structural integrity, innovative potential, practical application. Each time, Talia responded with clarity, drawing on the deep preparation she and her teammates had invested. When the last judge departed, Talia sank into a folding chair, mind racing. Her teammates gathered around, brimming with praise. "You nailed it," Samira said. Kennedy and Theo exchanged high fives, but as the fair wound down, announcements began. The room fell silent. First place went to an autonomous drone project. Second place to a biodegradable battery. Third to a lava-based geothermal energy model. Talia's heart sank until the announcer called honorable mention, Project NOVA solar-petal. Satellite by Talia Jefferson and team. Okay? The applause that followed felt like endorsed validation rather than reluctant courtesy. Talia's cheeks burned with pride as she accepted a certificate and a small ribbon. Her mother waved from the back, beaming. Later that evening, Talia spread the ribbon and certificate on her desk, the trophy of her hard work. Alone for a moment, she reflected on the week's journey from doubtful giggles to respectful nods. From prototype sketches to gym floor demonstrations, she whispered to the empty room, "This is only the beginning." And in that quiet resolve, Talia understood every step of belief, every gesture of support had brought her here. The sunflowers on her poster board seemed to glow in the lamplight, reminding her that even the most delicate petals could open to light, and that brilliance, once proven, would always be seen. On Monday, Talia walked into room 1 to be carrying more than just her backpack. She carried last week's ribbon and certificate tucked inside a clear plastic sleeve. As she passed the front row, several classmates offered genuine smiles. It felt strange, as though the world had subtly shifted. Miss Lawson greeted her at the door. "We've been hearing great things about Project Nova," she said. "The principal wants you to present at Friday's school-wide STEM assembly." Talia's heart leaped. A school-wide audience meant hundreds of students, parents, and teachers. It meant speaking under bright stage lights instead of the fluorescent gym. Yet she nodded, bracing herself against a surge of excitement and nerves. "I'll be ready," she said, voice firm. All week, she prepared. After school, she converted her science fair slide deck into a concise, 20-minute presentation. Instead of detailed schematics, she crafted a clear narrative: the problem of inefficient solar collection, the inspiration of sunflower petals, their team's prototype, and broader applications for orbital platforms. She practiced in front of her teammates, Kennedy, Samira, and Theo, who offered constructive feedback. "Speak slower here. Emphasize that data point there. Smile more." At the audience's questions in homeroom, whispers trailed her as she passed. Some students peeked at the flyer posted on the school bulletin, STEM Assembly, featuring Talia Jefferson's solar-petal satellite. It was the first time her name hung in neon letters on a school poster. For weeks, she had felt invisible. Now her own words would carry weight. By Thursday, butterflies buzzed in her stomach. That evening, she sat at the dining table with her parents. Renee stirred a pot of chili while David chopped vegetables. "You look pensive," David said. Flashing her a supportive grin, Talia exhaled slowly. "I'm excited, but also worried. What if I freeze in front of everyone?" Renee wiped her hands and joined her at the table. Remember how you led your teammates at the fair? Spoke confidently and answered every question. This is the same skill, just on a larger stage. She squeezed Talia's shoulder. You know your material. Trust your preparation. David nodded. We'll be cheering the loudest in the audience. Friday arrived in a swirl of anticipation. The auditorium was packed. Rows of folding chairs filled with students clutching programs, parents clutching coffee cups, and teachers in crisp attire. A projector screen dominated the stage, flanked by large posters illustrating data charts and the sunflower-inspired satellite design. Miss Lawson introduced Talia with warm enthusiasm. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Talia Jefferson, whose innovative project NOVA earned an honorable mention at the District Science Fair. She showed us how simple biomimicry can revolutionize space exploration. The spotlight clicked on, illuminating Talia's confident figure. The audience hushed. Talia drew a steady breath and began, "Good morning. Imagine a satellite whose solar arrays open like sunflower petals, maximizing sunlight capture throughout its orbit." Her voice was clear, each word enunciated. She advanced slides, illustrating energy output graphs and photos of their prototype in action under a lamp. At one point, she paused and looked out at the sea of faces, children fidgeting with programs, parents leaning forward, teachers nodding. She realized she wasn't alone. She was guiding them into her world of possibility. She invited questions. The first came from a middle school student in the front row. How would your design perform in extreme temperature swings on the moon? Talia explained how adaptive materials could contract and expand, maintaining hinge integrity. The student smiled, scribbling notes. Then a parent asked about Earth-based applications. Could similar arrays power remote weather stations? She described how the concept could scale to off-grid installations, reducing reliance on batteries. Each answer built her confidence. When she concluded, the room erupted in applause, warm, sustained applause that shook the stage. Talia bowed, cheeks flushed with pride. She walked off stage to find her parents standing, arms raised in triumph. Kennedy, Samira, and Theo followed, beaming with pride and carrying handmade Go Talia signs. In the days that followed, Talia's world felt larger. The school newspaper featured her on the front page. Local student inspires with solar-petal satellite. Interviews with the science teacher highlighted her leadership and perseverance. Even students who had once doubted her now stopped her in the hall to ask about her next project. Yet with recognition came new challenges. Invitations poured in. The Regional STEM Council wanted to showcase her project at a weekend expo. The Middle School Science Club asked her to lead a workshop. A local news reporter requested an interview. Balancing these opportunities with homework, project revisions, and her normal teenage life felt overwhelming. One afternoon, she collapsed onto her bed, binder open on her lap, textbooks strewn around. She closed her eyes, exhausted by presentations and expectations. Her phone buzzed with messages, reminders, interview requests, congratulations. She tapped her mother's number. "Hey," Renee answered on the second ring. How are you holding up? Talia exhaled. It's amazing, but I'm drowning in it all. I love sharing my work, but I miss simple evenings with my friends, just hanging out, no slideshows. Renee's voice was calm. Ambition is a gift, but so is balance. It's okay to set boundaries. You don't have to say yes to everything. Talia nodded, even though Renee couldn't see her. I'll ask for help prioritizing. Good, her mother said. You earned this, and you deserve to enjoy it. Let's map out which commitments align with your goals and which you can defer. Over the next week, Talia consolidated her schedule. She accepted the regional expo invitation and the science club workshop, but declined extra media interviews until after finals. She blocked off time for homework, family dinners, and evening walks with Kennedy. Each no felt like she was reclaiming space in her own life. At the regional expo, Talia stood beside her refined prototype, fielding questions from college students and industry professionals. She listened to their feedback suggestions on material science partners, potential grant opportunities, connections to university labs. Each conversation felt like a doorway to future possibilities. On the way home, Kennedy sat beside her in the car, chattering about weekend plans. Talia smiled, grateful for the normalcy of friendship. She realized that while her ideas propelled her forward, it was the support of her community classmates, family, teachers that sustained her journey. That night, as she sketched new modifications in her binder, she paused to reflect. The ribbon from the science fair sat next to her laptop, a reminder of where she'd started. The stage lights of the assembly felt long ago, but the thrill remained. Above all, she understood a deeper truth. Brilliance didn't demand sacrifices that dimmed her life. It flourished in balance driven by curiosity, nourished by community, guided by the gentle confidence of someone who believed in her from the very start. And as she closed her binder and prepared for bed, she whispered into the quiet, "This is just chapter 5. The real journey is only beginning." The sun peered through Talia's bedroom window as she stretched awake on Monday morning. The promise of a new week settling around her like a soft blanket. Beside her bed lay the binder filled with sketches and notes, her roadmap for future innovations. Today marked 6 months since she first stood before her classmates and announced, "My mom works at NASA." 6 months in which she'd faced laughter, doubt, discovery, and triumph. Now, as autumn leaves drifted outside, she sensed the horizon expanding once again. Breakfast in the Jefferson household was a symphony of sizzling bacon and clinking dishes. Renee flipped pancakes while David poured orange juice. Talia joined them at the table, smoothing her hair into a neat braid. Beside her plate lay an official invitation, NASA Johnson Space Center's Young Innovators Symposium. Selected attendees would pitch ideas to real aerospace engineers and compete for summer internship opportunities. Her heart fluttered as she reread the words. The regional expo had earned her an invitation to this elite event, rare for a 5th grader. Stakes felt higher than ever. Renee slid a stack of pancakes before her. "I saw your reaction," she said. Big day. Talia nodded, butter melting on the warm surface. It's incredible. But I'm nervous. Last time I had a big crowd, I managed fine. Pitching to NASA engineers. They'll know this. Inside and out. Renee reached across and squeezed her hand. Guys, they'll respect your passion and perspective. You know your project better than anyone else. Okay. David chimed in, and you've got a year's worth of practice now. Remember the assembly? The expo? You've earned every bit of this moment. Talia drew a slow breath, settling a swirl of confidence beneath her nerves. Okay, she said, a small smile forming. Let's do it. That afternoon, Talia met Kennedy, Samira, and Theo in the library. Symposiums in 2 weeks, she announced, placing the invitation on the table. We'll need to refine Project Nova maybe, expand our data sets, improve the prototype, and prepare a concise pitch. Theo nodded, already opening his laptop. We can run extended tests under variable light conditions and temperature ranges. Let's chart performance in low and high heat. Kennedy sketched supplemental diagrams, cross-sectional views of the hinge mechanism and airflow patterns in vacuum chambers. Samira drafted a 1-page executive summary for judges to reference. For the next 2 weeks, their after-school sessions transformed the library into a miniature lab. They calibrated heat lamps to mimic lunar day temperatures, affixed miniature thermocouples to their solar petals, and recorded voltage stability across cycles. They incorporated a lightweight composite material for the hinge support skirtacy of a local university's outreach program, boosting durability by 15%. As deadlines approached, Talia pooled her teammates' contributions and refined her pitch. She practiced in her living room, delivering her presentation to a row of empty chairs. Renee and David offered feedback, tighten the introduction, share a personal anecdote about her mom's advice, and end with a bold vision. Satellites powered by adaptive arrays exploring gas giants and beyond. On the morning of the symposium, Talia, dressed in her best outfit, a navy blue cardigan over a crisp white shirt, black slacks, and sneakers polished enough to greet the event's formality, while keeping her grounded. She pinned her mother's ID badge, Talia Jefferson, NASA Johnson Space Center, to her jacket pocket. The symposium hall buzzed with energy. Middle and high school students from across the region mingled beside polished prototypes and sleek posters. Banners overhead read Young Innovators, shaping the future of space exploration. Engineers in white shirts and logoed lanyards drifted through the aisles, stopping at tables to ask questions. Talia stationed herself at her table, flanked by Kennedy and Theo, with Samira circulating to invite judges. Their display was a scaled-up version of their earlier project, a refined solar-petal array mounted on a mock satellite frame, connected to sensors and a data-logging tablet. When the first panel of engineers arrived, Talia stood, taking a deep breath. Good morning. I'm Talia Jefferson, and this is Project Nova, an adaptive solar array inspired by sunflower petals designed to maximize energy capture throughout a satellite's orbit. She clicked a remote. The display screen switched to a video. There. Prototype unfurling its petals under varying lamp intensities. graphs updating in real time with voltage and current readings. Engineers nodded appreciatively as she explained material choices, thermal performance, and potential scaling for CubeSats and larger platforms. An older engineer, his NAMA-tag reading Dr. Patel, leaned in. Your data shows remarkable stability in temperature swings. Have you considered automating panel adjustment with a small onboard motor? Talia smiled, excitement igniting. Yes, we're prototyping a micro-actuator system that responds to light sensors, enabling autonomous reorientation. Our next phase is integrating that into the current design. Dr. Patel's eyes lit up. I looked forward to seeing that. Excellent work. All morning, Talia fielded questions from structural engineers, probing hinge fatigue tests, to mission designers asking about integration with spacecraft control systems. Each inquiry felt like a conversation, bridging her young perspective. With professional expertise, at midday, the symposium shifted to formal pitches on the main stage. 20 students, including Talia, were called up in groups to deliver 5-minute presentations before an audience of engineers, educators, and peers. When her turn came, Talia stepped up, heart pounding. The bright stage lights felt intense. She focused on the faces in the front row, women and men who once inspired her. Through textbooks and documentaries, she began. Space exploration depends on sustainable energy solutions. Inspired by nature's efficiency, Project Nova harnesses adaptive solar arrays to optimize energy capture for small satellites. In 5 minutes, she delivered her story challenge, solution, data, and vision interwoven with personal notes about her mother's mentorship and her own journey from a doubting classroom to this very stage. When she concluded, the hall erupted in enthusiastic applause, genuine and heartfelt. One student behind her wiped away a tear. An engineer waved his program booklet in approval. Talia returned backstage, cheeks flushed, exhilarated by the reception. Later, awards were announced. In the grand hall, first place went to a magnetic shield design, second to a bioengineered life support module. Then came a special recognition, Innovator Spirit Award, Talia Jefferson, Project Nova. The crowd stood, cheering as Talia accepted her plaque. The engineer presenters praised her for combining scientific rigor with imaginative design and personal storytelling. Tears pricked her eyes as she smiled broadly, her mother and father cheering from the front row. Kennedy, Samira, and Theo enveloped her in a celebratory group hug. That evening, back at home, Talia placed the plaque on her desk beside the certificate from the assembly and the ribbon from the science fair. She gazed at the growing collection of milestones, tangible markers of her determination. Renee tucked her into bed, brushing a hand over her daughter's forehead. "I'm so proud," she whispered. "You embraced every challenge and made it your own." Talia snuggled under the covers, eyes heavy but heart alight. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said. Renee knelt beside her. "You have brilliance inside you. I only gave you the tools. You made them shine." She kissed Talia's forehead. "Sweet dreams, innovator." As the lights dimmed and the house settled into quiet, Talia drifted toward sleep. Visions of future satellites, unfolding their solar petals in cosmic dawns, dancing behind her eyelids. The world beyond her bedroom felt vast and welcoming, full of challenges waiting to be met by curious minds. Tomorrow, she would wake ready to learn, to create, to inspire others as she had been inspired. And with each sunrise, she carried the lesson that truth, like light, could bend and bloom in ways no one expected, so long as someone had the courage to let it shine.